Hi, I'm Brittany Ashley, your host of Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, your guide through this transformative journey in both business and life. This is your place crafted for dreamers, doers, or anyone who has been told they can't. Get ready as we challenge those narratives together. You're tuning in live to the United Public Radio Network, airing on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We are streaming on all the popular platforms every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join me for a candid and thought-provoking conversation celebrating your unique journey because you are worth it. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Technical difficulties, of course, on a Monday, I can see. Just so you know, Jenna was screaming at me, and I was like, what is happening? So hopefully everyone can hear and see me. Jenna, welcome, everyone. It's Monday, and welcome to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. I'm your host, Brittany Ashley, and we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 and 107.7 in New Orleans. Get ready to escape the next hour as we break norms and build dreams with Jenna today. I'm so excited to have you.
Thanks for having me, Brittany. Hi, everyone.
Just going to make a multitasking. Come with your questions today, everybody, if you can. I see some things aren't working properly, so hopefully that can sort itself out. So we're just going to keep going. We'll just do a quick little introduction on who Jenna is, and then Jenna, I'll get you kind of announce to the listeners a little bit more about your background.
Sounds good.
So Jenna is a marketing, communication, and event leader who helps mission-driven organizations turn complex ideas into stories that build trust and bringing people together. For her, community isn't a tactic, it's the reason she does the work. Diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 2.5, she's learned early what it means to need support from others and build a career on noticing when someone is missing connection and reaching first. Her work across healthcare and advocacy recently earned her the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce in 2025 and New Business of the Year award. Congratulations on the award.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, well, maybe you can kind of dig in a little bit of who you are, because I know I did my bio, but I like to hear it from you of like who you are and your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been in marketing and comms for 15-ish years plus, and I have always loved people and connecting people. I am someone that connection was really important. I grew up in a very small family. I was the oldest of three. I was always the one taking care of everybody. I was always planning events, and my first joint party with my little sister was a Disney themed party, and I had everyone had table, like little place settings where everyone would sit down, and costumes and all that. So I've always been very into bringing people together, and as you mentioned, I'm a type 1 diabetic, diagnosed very young, and so learned the importance of needing to be able to rely on other people, despite the fact that I'm a type A. So it's hard for control, but to understand and recognize sometimes you do need support and sometimes you do need help. And so that has taught me really the importance of resilience and understanding, needing to listen to self, but then also recognize bringing the right people and supporting yourself with the right people around you, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I can't agree more. And I think that's why when you and I connected, we connected a lot. We have very similar values and beliefs. So we just naturally just kind of molded well together. And so I'm excited to kind of dig in a little bit deeper, because I truly believe that's how we as small businesses, community should be really working together, because we do live in like a very kind of corporate / society, consumerism. And so it's really how we can kind of take kind of that piece back for ourselves and really kind of building things with true values and everything that comes together.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I know you kind of said like your bio, but what kind of got you into kind of like your marketing pieces and foundation? Because I know you do a lot because you're kind of like me, like the unicorn that does the marketing, the team building, the leadership. So maybe you can kind of go a little bit deeper on that piece.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love marketing because it is creative and it allows me to problem solve.
Yes.
I love bringing those two pieces together. I love asking the question of why
Mhm.
and then looking for the rationale. And a big part of marketing is around building community and understanding what you're like the reason of why you're doing what you're doing, because essentially you're marketing something, so you need to understand what is the need of your target audience.
Mhm.
um, and it really allows me to dig into the things that we're actually going to talk about today, which is empathy. So really being empathetic to understanding what are the needs of the community that you're aiming to serve, and it's listening to them and understanding what what problems they have that you're trying to help solve for them. And also it's listening to your intuition and looking at data and collaborating with different people and different groups, because marketers, there's many different specialties that you work with when you're dealing with marketing, as well as quite often there are other departments that you're quite often working with, business owners and members of their team too, so it's a very collaborative process. And
Yes.
so that's why I really love the marketing piece. And then the community piece, which I think is so important to connect in with, that is if you're not connected with the people that you're trying to sell to, you're
Mhm.
not going to resonate, right?
Yeah.
And quite often people need to hear things multiple times just because we're busy. So, there could be a product or a service that someone needs, but they may not be in the right mindset to receive that information at that time. We
Mm.
often say in the marketing world, it's reaching the right people with the right message at the right time.
Exactly. I
Mhm.
can see that we have Heidi listening. So, hi, Heidi from Colorado. And she also mentioned she loves marketing too, was going for a degree and did 9.5 credit hours to grad, but life and family was working as an office manager. It's a lot to get through marketing because I also
Mhm.
have my degree in marketing communications and kind of like looping back into what you're saying there. Um, I think sometimes it's good to know your target market and know your niche and all the
Yeah.
things. But I'm the kind of I'm a little bit of a rebel where I say don't niche. I'm like I remember when I first took my paper and communication course, they're like get your competitors and write it all down. I'm like yes, it's great to kind of know quote unquote your competitors, but I like to push the boundaries of like well how can we work with them? Because I think there's room for everyone in different levels. So if I have the same similar business model to somebody else, how can we work collaboratively in the community that we can both thrive in? Because there's enough for everybody. So it's like the state of mind of like the mind shift. And like going back to like the psychology that you're saying too.
Yeah, that's such an interesting perspective, and it's one that really makes a lot of sense to me. And I think it's how I was raised. My
Mhm.
family unit was very community, like very like family focused.
Yes.
And it was never about the individual person. It was about the family unit. It's all for the family was
Mhm.
the learning.
Yes.
And so for me, growing up, I had people wanting to compete with me. Oh, what did you get in this? And what did you get on this test? And what mark did you get? And for me, I was like, well, does it really matter? Like for me, like I never understood that competitive piece.
Yeah.
And I've always been, and it's totally fine, people that are competitive, that's great. It's just not who I am as a person. For me, it's always been about how can I help the people around me? How can I support the people around me so we can all exceed?
Yes. Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
Like even I can see it with my kids right now. They're so competitive. Like every little thing. Like this morning they both had like a meltdown because one kid had a bigger cinnamon bun than the other, like slightly. And I was like, really? Why don't we just take just a little bit chunk here and all is good? It's just like now they're like butting heads, like they're besties, but they're
Yeah.
definitely full in competition mode. And I'm like, I'm an only child. So to me, this is such like a different dynamic. And my husband's out of the three, so he's probably seen this way more than I have. So I'm learning to navigate this myself. But just from like thinking about like competition as siblings to business, like I know it's a different dynamic, but
Mhm.
really like tapping into what you're saying, I think it's really important for us as society to kind of stop it in a way and really acknowledge how we can collaboratively work together. um, I think, I don't know, maybe you can kind of touch on this on a little bit more, but I think community is more urgent more than ever. How do you feel about that?
I 100% agree. I
Mhm.
think that we are so digitally connected these days,
Mhm.
yet I think a lot of people are feeling more profoundly alone.
Yeah.
Um, and the question then is why?
Mhm.
We have our cell phones right here,
Yeah.
right? And mine's on mute, don't worry. But it's so easy to just log into, open up an app, and you can send a DM to someone and whatever. You can check what someone across the world is doing right now. But the number of likes that you have, the number of shares that you have, that's not the same as actually having genuine connection with people.
Yeah.
And I think the pandemic really compounded this, and it really emphasized the importance of human connectivity and real the importance of building relationships and connections with people.
Mhm.
And I think that there are a lot of people that are still trying to come back from um, what they experienced during the pandemic.
Mhm.
And in addition to that, isolation compounds everything. Stress, self-doubt, decision making,
Yep.
disengagement, etc. And then, of course, you also have people that building connections with people is maybe a bit more challenging. May not be able to pay attention or understand or recognize what different social cues means too. So there's also
Mhm.
that
Like,
piece,
yeah,
right? And so it's I think it's a really interesting time because we're talking a lot more about mental health. We're talking a lot more about how everyone is different, and that's totally okay. There is no normal, air quotes, right? It's everyone processes information differently, and we should celebrate that. But then at the same time, it's how do we have an environment where community building is inclusive and is something that people feel comfortable doing in a way that makes sense for them.
absolutely. I I think I went and met somebody for a coffee here. We're both in Victoria, by the way, Victoria, BC. If anyone really doesn't know who's listening from the US, it's just above this Seattle. Take a little boat, come visit us.
Yeah,
Um,
we're an island.
yes, Islander, West Coast over here. But we met for coffee, and he said that like here in the Victoria, and I even think in Vancouver too, like we're very like some people feel like we're a bit cliquey, and that it's really hard to build those senses of community and all of those things that we used to see back in the day. It's really, and I thought that was quite fast. I'm the kind of person, like I'm a floater, meaning like I just kind of like pop into somebody's group. I'm like, hey, how are you? Like, don't need like no filter, like want to be friends. Either you don't or you don't, then I'll keep on moving. But not everybody's like that, right? So he was saying how difficult he's from Turkey, and he said that he's found it quite difficult to build a connection, build the community here.
Yeah.
And I was like, it kind of made me think a bit more, and I was like, that's kind of true. Like I have like yes, family kind of scattered in a way, I'm the kind of person too, like I adopt you into the family. Like if I feel like you're a good person and you have no other family, like I've always been known to take people from like university that didn't go back home to Vietnam, for example. Vanity would come spend Christmas with us
Yeah.
because I don't believe anybody should be alone on holidays. It's like how we as community people in the community come in together. And it's so different. Like even if you go downtown Victoria, a lot of people are segmented.
Yeah.
Have like Pandora, which is considered, for anyone who doesn't know, like a lot of homelessness there. And it's so sad of like how much things have progressed and changed. It's kind of
Yeah. Yeah, Brittany, I appreciate that you brought that up. I mean, I'm originally from Toronto, Ontario. I moved to Victoria in 2016.
mhm.
And so my husband and I, we needed to start building our own network, our own community, right? So we started from scratch. And it was challenging. It's hard when you're an adult moving to a new city. And I'm sure some of our listeners here have experienced this as well. You really have to put yourself out there, and it is kind of scary, right? I had to, and I'm a bit of an introverted person, right? So for me, it's challenging to connect with new people, and it's one of those things where I find if you have a hobby, something that you really enjoy doing, go and do that, because and you might meet someone that might be interesting that you could make a connection with, because commonalities quite often is helpful. I I made friends with my hairstylist
Yeah,
because I was like, you know what, you're cool. Why not?
yeah,
Brittany and I were at a marketing summit, and I don't know if you came up to me or I came up to you, but we started talking, and we're like, oh, let's go for a coffee, and then here we are. So it's funny how these things happen, right? And towards the end, we can probably maybe chat a little bit about some ideas around, some ideas around how building community might be, some tips that I have for
yeah.
later on. But
You know,
I think it's important to just be aware that sometimes it is scary to build connection and build community with people, but even just starting by smiling at someone on the street or saying hello to someone in a coffee line,
it just takes
things like
like
that.
those little things, right?
Yeah.
There was a TikTok. Everyone here who's reoccurring listeners like, oh, Brittany's obsessed with TikTok. I am, okay. I'm on TikTok a lot. Anyways, I was watching a TikTok, and I guess they're his building over in Vancouver, I believe it was Vancouver, was having like a get together to get to know people kind of situation, but everybody segmented into their own little cluster and bubble,
Hmm.
and no one wanted to talk to this individual. And he came in and just kind of ate his food, and no one, like, he tried to like greet people, but everyone was just like so like in their bubble that he just ate, filmed, and like he was getting really red in the face, and he said that he felt so uncomfortable that he had to leave. And that's like, that just kind of made, and I was reading some of the comments, and so many people were like, people are mean, just kind of like bashing, and you never know like who's an introvert, extrovert, maybe you're kind of in the middle, in between. But I think it's like going that extra step further of just being like, hi, like come in my group, or hi, like I'm in this side of the building, what side are you? Like just that it takes 1 second.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, you never know what somebody's going through on the daily basis. So it's just that one little extra kindness can go so much further.
Yeah, absolutely. And that transitions really nicely into this idea of empathy.
Hmm.
And for me, I talk a lot about empathy, because I think it's really important, and I think we're all so busy running around and doing all of these things, um, that I think it's often challenging for us to stop and consider someone else's perspective on things.
Yeah.
And empathy is not just being kind, it's not just being sympathetic. It's actually an active practice of really understanding or trying to understand or put yourself in the shoes of what someone else may be experiencing.
Absolutely.
And to me, it's slowing down, taking a moment and really listening to what someone else is saying. It's asking questions, and it's resisting the urge to immediately offer solutions. And this is something that I struggled with because I like to solve problems. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll be the first person to say I was not empathetic when I was younger, in that I was always trying to, someone would come to me and they'd say, oh, I have a problem. And immediately I would go to problem solving mode, say, okay, you should do this, this, and this, because I was trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
And then I now, in retrospect, thinking back, that put a lot of tension on relationships with people because they didn't necessarily want a solution. They wanted a shoulder. They wanted to complain. They wanted something that I wasn't giving them. So I wasn't leading with empathy. I wasn't considering what they were thinking.
Mm-hmm.
People want to feel seen. They want to feel heard. Um, and they don't always want to be helped. And if you transition that into the marketing piece in business, they don't always want to be marketed to. They don't want to feel like someone's pushing something on them. And so once you're able to authentically sit and actually be curious and understand and listen,
Mm-hmm.
that's how you start building. I know the word trust is thrown around a lot, but that's how you start building connectivity. That's how you start building relationships with people. And that's how over time you're able to develop trust with people. And start building the foundation of what a real community could potentially look like. And that could be a personal community or that could be a professional community.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important in different areas in your life, one, and then leaning into business. I think it's really important for employers to have that mechanism of empathy.
Mm.
Is there's a lot of I've been through different work areas where they just truly didn't understand different levels, and they had all these high expectations. And my background is also in tourism hospitality, and I love the program because really their essence is you can't just go into one level of the tourism program. You need to be the back house, front of the house. If you're going to be a manager, you need to learn and understand how each role plays and works together.
Mm-hmm.
Be a good manager and leader, and then I think really leading on the empathy side. And it's just too when you're the whole reason too why I created my business was, yes, for moms, caregivers who needed a flexible work style, but also too a lot of us are neurodivergent, and a lot of employers just don't understand or give the time to understand what are your true strengths in your business. It's more here's your job description, now go. And if somebody's struggling, they don't take the time of oh, you might need X, Y, and Z to get you to that step further. It's more or less, well, you're just kind of stuck at your job. So
Yeah.
So I really think it's really important and I think there should be a course just on empathy
I
for,
agree.
yeah.
I agree. It's interesting you say that because I had a team at the last job that I was working for before I went off and did my own thing, and there was someone on my team that they had a deliverable, received the deliverable, and it just wasn't right, and so I worked with them on it, and because we were dealing with a deadline and whatnot, and we were able to get it sent off to the client, and they were happy with it. But afterwards, I had a conversation with them, and they came to me and said, "Look, I recognize the quality wasn't there," and I let them talk, and I just let them explain, why they felt the quality wasn't there and whatnot, and they disclosed to me that they had dyslexia.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, well, how can I support you? Right? What do you need in order to set you up for success so that you feel empowered to be able to, to deliver to the quality that you're capable of. And it was simple as, well, I use this tool. So I went, okay, let me talk to leadership and see, and we're able to get the tool for this person. And there was a tremendous improvement in performance, and they felt happy, and like the weight was off of their shoulders, because wait a second, she heard me, and not only did she hear me, she understood, and she gave me the tool that I needed to be able to do my job and do my job well, right? And so it's not me sharing this to be like, oh, great job, Jenna, you're awesome. But no, it really, it was just this exercise of, I could have been upset. I could have said, oh, well, this caused me to have to work late and like all of that. But no, it was really great reminder for myself to be like, okay, well, let's just get back for a second and say why, and what can we do to make things better for this person.
Absolutely. And as somebody who has dyslexia, that's something I think I would like to see more in the workforce, because first off, I think you go through a lot of emotions when you, one, been diagnosed with dyslexia or anything like that, a learning disability in essence. It's want to kind of hide behind the curtains, because you know that you can do it if you can get the essence of able to doing it, to prove that you're there like anyone else. But if you don't have the means of the tools, then you're going to fail. And it's like taking that moment. This is why I always say, like, for employers listening, is like really question and like get curious of like about each individual person who's on your team. Because if they actually know that you're taking that time to understand and really truly wanting to see them succeed, they will be lifers.
Yeah.
I think. Or if not lifers, they'll like know that you took that time and patience, and they'll have that different level of respect for you too.
Yeah.
I think it's really important.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, there's a comment. Oh, Heidi says, love it.
Hi, Heidi.
I really like, this is some of the stuff that I really want to kind of see more in the general 9-to-5s, as I have my kiddos and the issues that I've had to experience, and people didn't really take the time to understand. So going back to like the sales thing, because I don't like to sell to people. I'm like, either you want to work with me or you don't want to work with me. Meh. Or we just have a coffee chat, and that's that kind of situation. But like, I used to work at the tourism center here, and you're supposed to have a leverage of sales each day, each week, or whichever. And I'm not kind of the person of like, pick this whale watching company. You got to do this one. I'm like, here's all your selections. Go off and see what you like. And then they would still come back and they would want to work with me, but I end up giving them over to like Emilio. I made Emilio do the work to mention the numbers, because I always would stress out about it. And like, I just never peer pressure people into the sales. Like, that's just never been like my way of sales. And I don't think it's a way, like, we can even say it like a lot of people don't like to go to car salesmen. Because unfortunately they do have a bad name. I know not all of them are like that, but you feel when you go on the lot that you're going to be sold to, no matter what.
Yeah. Well, I think it's authenticity, right? What feels authentic to you. And I think that it's super important. You need to be yourself. You need to feel good about how you conduct yourself and how you feel interacting with people, right? And so if you're putting yourself into a situation where you don't feel comfortable using a specific sales script, for example, then don't do it, right? It comes back again to being authentic and to creating connection and community and just being like resonating with people, and it's finding what works. So like, for example, I received a call the other day, and I know people are probably like, she answers her phone, what? But I was expecting a call, and the number was similar, and so I picked it up, and it was someone trying to get me to donate money towards a cause. And I'm all for donating money to causes. But the script that this person was using was very pushy and very aggressive. And they were asking me for information. And I was like, first off, no. If you have a website you can send to me, then I can look and see if it's I can look into it in my own time, and I can see if it's legitimate. I can cross check. But they kept trying to push me towards someone else to talk to and to take my information. And I was like, no, thank you. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in this. And you really have to just be mindful. And I know, I'm sure a lot of people were like, oh, it sounds like a scam. It probably was. But at the same time, I think it's just really important to just be mindful of like what resonates, what makes sense. And also following your intuition, your gut, what feels right, and what doesn't feel right. And in that situation, did not feel right at all.
No. And before we go more into intuition and leadership, because we're already halfway. I told you it would go really fast. We're midway in the show. For those just tuning in, welcome to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. We're live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 10.5 words, 10.5.3 and 10.7.7 FM in New Orleans. My words today. Need more coffee, obviously. Wow, that was a struggle and a half. Sorry, everybody. But yeah, going into intuition and leadership and just like the intuition piece. So randomly, I got an email. This is probably 4 years ago. Alana, she's been on the show. She's a MMA fighter, Indigenous Métis, and she wants to be top MMA fighter here in Canada.
Amazing.
And all the things. And she sent me an email, and she was asking for sponsors. And I was like, yes, here's my money. And then I started to have like a bit of like oh my goodness, what happens if this is not a real person? But when I first saw the email, I was like, let's go, girl. Let's make sure you're number one. Like, love what you're doing. Love what it's all about. And so I transferred the money, not even thinking about it. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, I should make sure that's a real person. And she is. She's been on the show. And then we've been sponsoring her for the last 3-4 years now.
Amazing.
Like, I love doing things like that. Like, I don't want to be peer pressured into it. Like, if it's such a good cause, and that's a big thing that we do at Creative Dynamics, is certain, if we're able to do it, then we'll give back to different causes. So we've done, like, we sponsor Alana every year in different fights it ranges. But the other thing is, we look at different Indigenous communities that might need donations. The residential schools, I do a lot of donations there because my grandma was in a residential school. Another piece is Autism Rocks, local down in, I believe, I should double check where Sam is. I can't quite remember. Somewhere in the States. Doesn't help very much. But we also have done like Vancouver Island mental health. So being very intentional on where we show up and why, because I do have a lot of strong values of what we give back to. And I think intuition and leadership, I think we can dive into a little bit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. And that's amazing, Brittany. Yeah. So often when people hear about intuition, they think, oh, that's not real. It's unscientific. But it's actually a form of information. And it's essentially taking your experience and pattern recognition and empathy, and it's all working faster than you can consciously process. And so what a lot of strong leaders will do is use intuition in addition to additional data to support decision making.
Mm-hmm.
So intuition allows us to understand if there's something going on with not with a team member, for example, or if you're presented with a campaign and you're looking at it and you're going, I don't know, something just doesn't feel right about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, for example, there was a campaign that we had that we were working on a few years back, and there was something about it that just wasn't quite right. The message just wasn't quite resonating.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we did is we actually went back to some of our community members who were our target audience, and we showed it to them and said, what do you think about this? And they were able to help us make it more targeted and more direct so that it would resonate. And so that's why in business, it's so important to have community members that you can actually tap into and say, hey, does this land? Does this make sense? Because if you're ignoring your intuition, there can really be a cost. There can be, a dollar value cost, but then there can also be a cost to yourself. Like, so for example, I've stayed in situations in work situations where I maybe should have left sooner. I'm sure there's people that have stayed in, relationships or with friendships longer than they probably should have. Or maybe you miss opportunities because you're so fixated on one thing. You don't see other opportunities that could potentially be there. And so I always say that if something doesn't feel right, it typically is.
Yeah.
And when you start battling with your mind and trying to analyze, you're then diluting the intuition piece.
Yes. Absolutely. I think it's and that's the one thing that I been doing like with creative dynamics is like how do we look at the mindset and look and get more curious for business owners and just strategy driven items. It's not just always about strategy. It's sometimes we need to do like the inner reflection and going and getting more curious with our inner selves. So like we also have like Steph, for example, coming in on the team that does hypnosis, and everyone might be like, well, that's weird. But no, it's like, how do we untap the unconscious mind? Because sometimes we can actually know a lot more intuitively. But if we're so stuck in this cycle, sometimes like you have your blinders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like if you're in a bad relationship, majority of us all have had bad relationships, from friendships to boyfriends, girlfriends, whichever. And sometimes we just are so infatuated, but I don't know, they have the most coolest hair ever. You're just like, can't see anything else. Just love the hair. But everybody else sees talk to you well, or all these other layers, but you're just, the blinders are so on. And a lot of us sometimes go through those experiences, and it's us that need to kind of navigate to the other side. Sometimes the universe puts those situations for us for a reason, so we can navigate how to get through things.
Yeah.
But intuition, we all have it. It's just like taking that minute to like really reflect and really understanding where it comes up for us. I think it's really important. Like there is some intuitions that I've had in my own business, and when they come back, when it all comes flying through, and I was like first devastated or whichever, and it's like I knew from day one. I'm like, got it, but I just did it anyways, and then here we are again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because for me, I find that we have so many thoughts racing around in our mind all the time, right? It's always go, 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 go. When my intuition presents itself, it's quiet, it's quick, and it's like a flash. It's like it's a totally different experience, and it makes me pause for a moment because my analytical mind goes, that was a random thought, right? But because it's so different than the normal thoughts and the normal processing of information, that I stop and take notice.
Yes.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, sometimes like the inner, like everyone I think will show up differently for you. Like sometimes I have like in the gut feeling in my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
When I had a really bad experience with an individual, like I knew it was going to happen, but I'm always like that. Like I want to see the good in people
Yeah.
because they haven't proved to me wrong yet. And then when they do, I'm like, nope, next day, no, that's door closed, nail shut.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's hard because it's like, oh, like you don't. I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt, and then when it's sideways, you're like, oh, I knew that from the beginning, but yes. Do you have any recommendations for anyone listening who may be building a team or trying to build a business and how to lead a little bit more with empathy?
Mm. Yes, I would say from a building the team piece,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that my mentor shared this one thing with me, and I just thought it was the most brilliant insight. And he said, you need to understand what your challenges are.
Mm-hmm.
Once you understand what your challenges are, build your team around you that support you in those areas. Because then you're building a strong team. You don't want people that are exactly like you.
No.
And then he said, and then let them do their job because you hired them knowing that they are competent in those areas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always tried to take that with me. And I would say that I have learned from great leaders that I've had and
Mm-hmm.
mentors. And I've learned from those that maybe were not as skilled.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have seen what really works, what empowers people and supports people and sets them up for success. And to me, that is recognizing your team's strengths and weaknesses as well as your own,
Yep.
and providing them with opportunities to work on projects that allow them to let their strengths show, but then also giving them tools and resources and support to help them develop in areas that they're maybe a little weaker in so that there's growth.
Yes.
From the empathy side, I would say pausing and listening
Mm-hmm.
is really, really important, and observing. So I have been in rooms where the leadership team talks for the entire hour
Mm-hmm.
and everyone sits there and just listens to them.
Yeah.
And to me, I find that really unfortunate because that's data, that's intel, right? That tells me um, that person feels like they need to be heard. Whereas if you're on a team and you're being collaborative, there should be an exchange about information and ideas.
Yeah.
And so what I try to do, there's times where, of course, you need to speak and you need to lead and you need to own the room. Sometimes you're presenting and whatnot. But if you're having a collaborative session, I ask questions. I ask, okay, Brittany, why?
Mm-hmm.
And then I listen and I watch. I
Yeah.
watch you and I watch Heidi and I watch other people in the room, and I see how are they responding with their body. Are they
Mm-hmm.
leaning in? Are they leaning back? Are they disengaged? Are they looking at the clock wondering, oh, is it lunchtime yet?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I want to engage people to understand what are their thoughts? And then I'll say, okay, Heidi, what about you? What are your thoughts? I want to understand, why do you think that is? Um, and of course, knowing my team and understanding how they are and how they work. Some people don't like being asked in front of. So I would, maybe give an opportunity for people to say, if you have any ideas after the fact, please come and, speak to me. If someone I know doesn't feel comfortable speaking in front of people, maybe I'll say, it's enough time for this right now. Maybe send me your ideas via email afterwards. It's understanding how people like to work, of course.
Yes.
But I try to create an environment where everyone has the freedom and flexibility to share their thoughts and feelings, and to try to problem solve things collaboratively.
Yes.
I also ask for like 365 feedback, right? So I want to know, how are things going with you personally? I want to know, how are things going with your peers, and how are things going with me? And I try to create an environment where people feel comfortable sharing feedback with me and saying, hey, um, love that, but can we maybe try this? And so like what I started doing when I was building out my team, I actually had an hour session with them, and it was okay, guys, what works for you? Like, what would you say is your top 3 skill sets that you're really great at, and how do you like to communicate, and what works for you, and how can everyone engage and work collectively together. And the feedback that I got from that was they really enjoyed that, because you got to learn a little bit more about their team. They got to learn a little bit more about themselves. They got to learn a little bit more about me. And it gave me the opportunity to set up a dynamic that seemed to work well.
Absolutely. I love that. And I've been saying this now, that everyone has a seat at the table. I don't care what your title is. We all have a seat at the table, and we're all are here to share and work collectively together. But if we don't cultivate like a safe place, like what you're saying, it's really hard to feel like we have a seat at the table, because some people don't feel like they have a voice.
Yeah.
But it's how we curate and cultivate that safe space already, like what you're saying, but then knowing that everyone has a time to chime in. If you I'm like a quiet one, so I like to listen, analyze. Like I like to analyze people before I speak up to know if I feel like it's safe enough. Um, this first thing, like I'm on the board of directors, I always say to them, like, I might be quiet, but I'm analyzing and processing all the things first before I jump in, or if I want to jump in, or you might hear from me at the next meeting, because I'm like, I'm such a visionary too. So I see the big picture, and then I have to see all the different parts and what everybody else is saying. And then I'll think about it and come back. So everyone processes things different,
Yeah.
analyze things different, or they want to share different. But it's how we, as leaders, business owners, with a team, how we cultivate that safe place so everyone feels safe and seen at the table.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Brittany, I'm very much the same way as well. Yeah. I like to sit back. I like to watch. I like to listen. I actually had someone say to me many, many years ago, Jenny, you're so quiet. And I said, my response back was, well, someone has to listen.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always get told I'm really quiet. I'm like very quiet. And I was like, I'm listening. Like it's not that my daughter's the same way. And they're always like, she's really quiet. I'm like, because she's analyzing, looking, seeing, making sure it's safe. Sometimes it's okay to be quiet. There's certain ways, like, yes, you need to, like, if you feel like you need to speak up, there's certain things you're getting taken advantage for. It's like building up that courage.
Yeah.
Because I know sometimes when I was younger, I wish sometimes I would have like stood up for myself a little bit more. But I'm like always, again, like to be quiet, make sure always like the last person to go to in the classroom. Pick me last. um, Heidi says, I honestly love others' different perspectives, open-mindedness. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's certain things like I just did an AI and ethics course. And I love hearing the different ideas. Like we did a capstone project, and I love hearing like the different ideas that people are coming up on how we can leverage AI in a different way in their
Mhm.
business. So if we didn't have a safe place to even talk about what our capstone project would be, I would probably still be here today being like, I don't know what I'm going to do for my project.
Yeah.
We have 10 minutes left. I thought maybe we can just kind of tap in a little bit more on like how we can build more community. We'll kind of go in there and then I'll leave some space for you to talk about your speaking podcast too.
I love that. Um, I actually jotted down a couple of notes I didn't forget. So I'm just looking at them here. So how to build community, I would say, and I just have a bunch of different suggestions. So take what you want from it and disregard the rest if it doesn't apply to you. But
Mhm.
I would say it can be as simple as reaching out to someone you've lost touch with, not with an agenda. Don't, there's no need to, oh, I need to find a job and therefore, no, it's just to reconnect. Hey, it's been a while, Brittany. How's it going? Want to grab a coffee, even if you guys live in different cities or states, you can still do virtual, right? Um, this one I really love is thanking someone who has quietly made a difference to you. Because a lot of the times people don't know that they've made a difference. I
Mhm.
received a note from someone that I worked with, goodness, early on in my career, the first place I ever worked. And she was following me on LinkedIn. And she said that one of the posts that I had written had really resonated with her. And said she was going through a bit of a difficult time. And she was finding a lot of inspiration from what I had written. And I just sat there for a moment and I went, wow, so that inspired me to mention that today because I just thought that was really, really, really lovely. One thing I love doing is making introductions that can help connect two people within your network. So one of your previous guests,
Yeah.
Brittany, yeah, I introduced you and Tammy, right?
Yeah,
And it's something I love doing because why would you not have cool people meet more cool people,
absolutely. I
right?
love that.
Yeah.
The more that we spread that around, for the better, right? Like I love connecting people. Like it's not of a what's the benefit of me. It's that I hope something amazing happens from this connection.
Yeah, honestly. Another thing I really enjoy doing is offering your time, your expertise, or your experience to someone who could use it. So, mentoring, a coffee chat, or just even a recommendation, right? I host exchange students that come from different countries, and so we have post-secondary students as well as high school students, and it's one of my favorite things because I get to meet young adults from all over the world.
Mhm.
And I get to provide them with, ideas and thoughts and insights and mentor them in different ways. And some are open to it more so than others. And we've made some really amazing connections over the years. And I've really, really, really loved that.
I love
I would say being consistent,
that. Mhm.
and not rather than perfect.
Yeah.
And being authentically yourself, I think, is really, really important because if you're being authentic and you're being yourself consistently, then you're just going to connect people that want to engage with you.
Yes.
Right? Brittany and I would not have met had, we not been at this conference and had I not just been myself and had she
Mhm.
not just been herself. Right. And um, here we are now.
Absolutely.
Um, I would say listening more than you speak, which, especially in newer relationships, it's really just understanding who the person is you're talking to and just getting to understand them and understand what are they looking for in life, and you could hear them mentioning a couple of things like, oh, I'm really struggling with this, or I really need, I'm working on this problem right now. And then that's an opportunity for you to go, oh, who's in my network who could help this person with this?
Mm-hmm.
Or what have I experienced that's similar? And then you could say, hey, I've experienced something like that. Would you be open to an idea? And that helps build connection and whatnot. Creating other opportunities for other people to connect. So if you were doing a dinner party, for example, or you're having, you have a group of friends on, from school, and you have some people from work, why not introduce them, right? People love meeting new people. And if they don't, that's great too, but you're giving people an opportunity. Volunteering or doing like hobbies with other people is a great way to make connections with people. And it's one of the fastest ways, I think, to find your people, because if you have similar interests, quite often there's an opportunity there. For organizations and even with your friends, I would say, and your family, creating feedback loops early on and often, just to speak, just to understand how projects are going, and making sure that you have alignment from multiple different parties, because quite often when you have a project, it's not just you. And I find very often we get biased and we get very siloed.
Yeah.
And so getting other perspectives is really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, when I'm at, networking sessions or meeting new people for the first time, I like to try to go beyond the surface level questions. So I think we're so programmed to say, oh, what do you do? Because we're trying to find some way of connecting with people. Yeah. Instead asking, what are you passionate about? Or what are you working on right now that's really exciting to you? Just asking a different question to help get some more information that allows you to move beyond what the person does for a living and what they act to more like, who are they and what are they doing that they're really excited about. And the last thing I would say is that you don't necessarily need a budget or like a big platform or a program to build community. But I think you need to be really intentional about how you're showing up and how you're aiming to connect with people, and just the idea of being authentic.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. We only have a few more minutes left, so I want to quickly share about your speaking. I'm just putting it on the website, or your website here. So that maybe explain everyone what they're seeing here.
Sure, yeah. So I have just recently started going out and speaking. So I speak on various different topics. I have recently gotten into speaking about type 1 diabetes and the stigma around that, and lived experiences. And I also work on the healthcare side as well. So being able to provide perspective from both the lived experience side as well as professionally. And I speak on marketing and communications and community building and things like that. So if anyone's interested in listening to some of my other talks that I've given, please check me out. And if you are interested in having me talk with you on a podcast or for any webinars or anything like that, please, I'm interested and love to hear from you. And also please find me on LinkedIn, because I love connecting with people.
I have LinkedIn flowing right there too. Well, thank you so much, Jenna. I was so excited for us to have this conversation today. I know we rescheduled a few times, but we made it happen.
We did. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. And I hope that everyone that was listening enjoyed it. And Brittany, you also mentioned that there's a link to where this recording will be saved afterwards too.
Yes, I will send that all to you, and then you can share it on your accounts as well. Thank you, Heidi, for all your great conversations. I've been watching too and try to bring it in as much as possible. With that, everyone, thank you so much for listening to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. A big thank you to United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network. And with that, everyone, remember your journey is unique and your worth is unquestionable. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.